The daily code snippet. With regards to the box model, the last aspect we should discuss is positioning. There are 5 values for the position property: static, absolute, relative, fixed, or sticky. Static positioning is the default. When you position an element with any of the other 4 values, you can then use top, bottom, left, and right to further position the element. Top, bottom, left, and right will not affect an element that is positioned static. An element that has the position property of static is considered in the normal flow of the page. We will look at a series of images and a short screen recording to understand what is normal flow and what it looks like when an object is out of normal flow, and clarify the different position values. In the first image, we see 5 circular elements in static positioning. Here's the code for section 1, the HTML, and the CSS. In the next image, we have added borders to block off each section. We have added a border to our CSS targeting the section elements. Now we add a second section of 5 circular elements representing the 5 positioning states: static, absolute, relative, fixed, and sticky. Immediately, we see an element that appears out of place. This is the code for section 2. The HTML, and the CSS. As we scroll down, we see that there are actually 2 elements that appear out of place that were overlapping. As we scroll further, we get to section 2, where we see the 3 other circular elements. Here is a screen recording of the action of scrolling and how the additional elements behave. We will explain this behavior so that you can further understand positioning. Now we will look at absolute positioning. When the position property of an element is set to absolute, it is positioned relative to the nearest position ancestor, and if it has no position ancestors, it will position relative to the document body. When an ancestor element is positioned, it means the ancestor has a position other than static. An element with absolute positioning will move with page scrolling. Here is the HTML code for section 2 in our demonstration. We see that it would be the second circle element. Here is the CSS. So in our example, we are looking at a circle element with a red color. This image shows our absolutely positioned element was initially hidden behind another element. Even though this element is supposed to be in section 2, you can see it appears to be floating on top of section 1 and the navigation. Why is this? It is because it has been taken out of normal flow. Because its positioning is absolute and it has no position ancestor, it is positioning itself relative to the body of the page. And because the top and left are set to 100 pixels, it is offset from the top and left side of the browser window. Note, any margin will be added to the amount of offset. The fixed element has the same offset, and this is why they overlap. As the page is scrolled, the absolutely positioned element scrolls with the page while the fixed element travels. This is why it is revealed as the page is scrolled. When setting the position of an element to absolute, there are accessibility concerns. This is because these elements may obscure other content, especially if a user is zooming in to affect the text size. Even without zooming in, we see that our element obscures our section 1 heading, so this would be a problem for accessibility. Next, we have relative positioning. When the position property of an element is set to relative, it is positioned relative to its normal position. Other elements will not adjust themselves to fit into any gaps left by a relatively positioned element. Its new position will be governed by setting the top, bottom, left, and right properties. These will determine the amount of vertical and horizontal offset from its normal position. By normal position, we mean where the element would have been situated if it was not relatively positioned. Here is the HTML code again for section 2 in our demonstration. We see that it would be the third circle element. Here is the CSS. So in this example, we will look at a circle element with a dark gray color. This image shows that a relatively positioned element sits to the right of the element with a static position. This is because the absolutely positioned element was taken out of normal flow. The element is shifted down and to the right because we have added 100 pixels of vertical offset and 100 pixels of horizontal offset from where the element would have been positioned had we not set the position to relative. Moving on to fixed positioning. When the property of an element is set to fixed, it is positioned relative to the viewport. The result is that a fixed element always stays in the same place despite scrolling the page. Similarly, the top, bottom, left, and right properties are again used to further position the fixed element. A fixed element is removed from normal flow and does not leave a gap where it would have been positioned. Here is the HTML code again for section 2 in our demonstration. We see that it would be the fourth circle element. Here is the CSS. So in this example, we are looking at a circle element with a black color. This image shows that our fixed element is out of normal flow, sitting outside section 2, obscuring the section 1 heading and part of the navigation. And as we scroll, we see that the absolutely positioned element is revealed behind it. The fixed element will scroll with the page as you continue to scroll. We see in this video that the fixed element remains offset from the top and left of the viewport window based on our settings of 100 pixels for both. The element remains offset in this way as we scroll the page. Just like an absolutely positioned element, a fixed element creates issues with accessibility. This relates to how a fixed element also causes performance issues because the browser needs to redraw the fixed elements as its location changes as the page is scrolled. This may lead to glitches in the browser, and from an accessibility standpoint, a user may be confused. A way to improve the experience would be to add a will change property that is set to scroll position to the CSS. This property tells browsers that an element is expected to change. Browsers will optimize prior to executing the expected behavior. In this case, it may render the element in its own layer to improve performance and minimize problems with accessibility. The last state to discuss is sticky positioning. When the position property of an element is set to sticky, it is positioned relative to the user's scroll position. A sticky element alternates between relative positioning and fixed positioning. So until the user has scrolled to the position of the element, it will be in a relative position. Once the user scrolls to the element, the position of the element becomes fixed to the user's scroll position. It basically becomes sticky and fixes to the user as the user scrolls. Once the offset is no longer met, the element becomes relatively positioned again and stops being fixed to the user's scrolling position. Specify at least one property, top, right, bottom, or left, for sticky positioning to work. Here is the HTML code for section 2 in our demonstration. We see that it would be the last circle element. And here is the CSS. So in this example, we are looking at a circle element with a medium gray color. This image shows that our sticky element starts out in a relative position because the absolute and fixed elements were taken out of normal flow. It sits in the third position to the right of the relatively positioned element that is offset down to the right behind the sticky element. As the browser is scrolled further down, The fixed element travels with us, and when we get to the position of the sticky element, it also begins to scroll and behave like the fixed element. Once we hit a point where we have scrolled past section 2, the sticky element stops following with us as we continue to scroll. This video shows the sticky element in action. Sticky elements will not work in Internet Explorer, and for Safari you may need to add the WebKit prefix for it to be recognized. Just like a fixed element, a sticky element can cause accessibility issues because it affects performance. Just as a fixed element needs to be redrawn, a sticky element has to be redrawn once activated as it travels as you scroll. So again, if you add a will change property set to scroll position to the CSS, this helps warn the browser that this element changes position so it can optimize itself to improve performance and accessibility. Presented by Designers Learn Code.